Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TraderMerlin. It is I can't even know what day it is anymore. It's Tuesday. How do I know? Because it's trivia night. I have some fun trivia questions planned for this evening. Let me get this light on over here so we can get rid of that background piece for it. There we go. Cool. I had a whole bunch of comments and questions that came in regarding yesterday's show, so thank you so much for that. I will try my best to get to those today. I want to get into this topic as quickly as possible because it's been one that's come up repeatedly, and I think I've answered it partially, but not kind of in depth and to the full extent. And I think it's important for all of us because we are all users of a system of global money transfer and exchanges. And it's a system that is old, it's antiquated, yet it's run by the banks, the central banks, Federal Reserve, and, how are you going to change that system, right? They've got a monopoly on it. There's really nothing we can do about it. Yet the rise of digital assets has kind of changed the thought process there. So today I'll show you a little bit about digitizing money, and I think you all understand that. You are currently using digital money right now. I mean, every single person here is using digital money, so I don't want there to be this taboo idea that, oh, it's cryptocurrency, oh, this is bad, it's dangerous. You're all using it. I guarantee it. You're using Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Venmo, PayPal, Cash App. Those are all digital types of money. The challenge comes with when you want to send money around the world, or you're sending money to, say, another country, or a large chunk of change from one business to another, that goes through an old system. It's called SWIFT, and I'll explain that here in just a second. So that's going to be the topic for at least the first half hour. Looking forward to engaging with you guys on that one. Let me know your thoughts as we progress. This question was started from Caesar, who I hope is watching today, because I know you're the one that wanted this repeatedly. You've asked quite a few times to go over Ripple. So he says, what are your thoughts on Ripple? Okay, so I'll start at a high level and just say it's important that when we look at these cryptocurrency projects that we don't get enamored with them and say, this is the greatest one ever. As I believe a lot of people say about Ripple. They look at it and go, man, Ripple's the greatest thing. Oh, it's got so much money and they're going to do great things. They've got connections with banks. And they do. They do have connections with banks. They've got a boatload of money. However, is it the best solution for the problem at hand? So as the way I built the crypto program for Trading Academy and for other entities is I want people to analyze things from an objective standpoint. Don't go, oh, so-and-so recommended, XYZ crypto. Let's look at it, break it down line by line and say, is this thing really valid? Does it have legs? Is it trying to solve a specific problem in our financial community? And if so, how are they going to do that? Right? I can say I'm going to build the biggest trading and education school in the world. And I personally think I have the skill set and connections to pull off the best, most efficient trading school in the world, bar none, and squash all these people who are charging $50,000 a pop. I know I can build it. But it's about getting marketing. It's about getting acceptance. It's about getting people to use that service and then ultimately having a successful business. So most of crypto, in my opinion, is this wide-eyed optimism of we're going to change the world, we're going to do all of these amazing things. And I believe that there's some good intent, but not a lot of good business smart application who's going to actually make those changes. Ripple, in my opinion, being one of those. So let's talk about SWIFT first. So to understand Ripple, you have to go back many years. And Ripple looked at our current financial system that's old. It has serious problems. There are major roadblocks and inefficiencies in our current financial systems. Yet most of us don't really notice it because we're so used to it, right? It's kind of like walking with a limp. When you first develop your limp, it's annoying, but after a decade or 20 years of having this limp, what limp, right? This is how I walk. It's the norm. No, fix it. Well, we're not just limping along. I would say our financial institutions are in wheelchair mode because of this system right here. It's called SWIFT. It stands for Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunications. Say that one 3 times fast. They shrunk it down into SWIFT. And the reason that this is important is if you're sending money around the world, and in many cases from bank to bank, you're using the SWIFT network. It's a messaging system. So they literally are sending messages like you would pass notes in class to, hey, Timmy's really cute, and hey, Sarah, meet me after the bike. All that type of stuff is done via notes. And how secure are those transfers of notes? How secure is that information being sent out? Well, let me ask you guys this one. Type into chat when you think that this idea for us to send money back and forth between institutions on this grandiose level. We're talking billions and billions of dollars being sent. When do you think this was created? When do you think that they came up with this idea? And the reason I ask that is because it was created obviously many years ago, but it really hasn't been upgraded to a digital world. Again, it was this great idea that allowed people to send money around. I think there's 500 plus banks from 15 different countries are currently involved in SWIFT. But at a certain point, you need to upgrade the vehicle with which you're sending information. I mean, if I went back into the 1930s and said, no, those vehicles, those cars we had back then are perfect for today. No, they're not. They needed to be upgraded. Safety features need to be put in place, efficiency pieces, comfort, all that stuff was upgraded. So Ben says the 80s. You're close. You're close. Ricardo says the 60s. It's actually 1973. So this system here, SWIFT protocol, was started in 1973, and it has had absolutely minimal upgrades to the system. And I think you would all agree that the technology, the mechanisms by which we sent information in the 1970s is significantly different than it is today. Back in the 1970s, you had a phone stuck to your wall in your living room with a cord that looked like a pig's tail coil that could stretch 25 to 50 feet. You could literally go outside your house with this phone that was mounted to your wall. If we had that today, we'd feel stupid having that in our house, right? Then we went to cordless phones in our house. And now, how many of you actually have a home phone line? I mean, that's just a clear representation of evolution of telecommunications, yet financial industry has done nothing like that, right? We're stuck in the Stone Ages with SWIFT. And here's what it's designed to do. As I mentioned, it's a messaging service, but per definition by them, it's a cooperative network that allows banks to communicate with each other securely. It's the world's largest and most streamlined method for international payments and settlements. It also costs a good amount of money to utilize it depending on the size of your transaction. It also is very slow. Sorry, Mark. I'm going to sound like I'm bashing Swift here, which I kind of am. Says I worked on Swift mainframe system back in the 1980s. This is your fault, Mark. I'm kidding. So, we have this thing that needs to be changed. And when Ripple came out in 2017, when I was really just going off the deep end into crypto, just falling in love with what it can represent, Ripple said, we're going to replace SWIFT. And they had this table. I couldn't find the table. I wanted to bring it into today's discussion, but it was like they had Ripple on one side and SWIFT on the other. And it was like, here's how fast it is. Here's how much it costs. Here's how the margin for error. Ripple says we can do these transactions in under a couple of seconds. You can send any amount of money anywhere in the world. It'll be completely documented on a blockchain within seconds, so anybody can go back and review those transactions, whereas history has shown a lot of lost transactions in SWIFT. They made transactions people going, I don't know where that is. We don't know we made a mistake. Those transactions could take several days to process. And we live in a day and age of instant gratification. I don't want to deposit my money in a bank and have to wait a week to get my check cleared, right? It should be, boom, it's in, cleared. So Ripple made a very compelling case that says, we're going to replace SWIFT. And look, we can prove to you we are faster, more efficient, more transparent, much cheaper. There is no negative piece to this, right? If you line them up side by side, it's a clear victory for Ripple. No argument. Ben Bernanke went to speak up at Ripple. It's called their Swell event in, I think it was 2017, if not 2018, early. And he said, he gave a presentation, talked all about, the money and the dollar, et cetera, and they presented Ripple to him, and he liked it. He actually came back and said very positive things about the technology, not Ripple per se, but the technology, which I've mentioned before, leads us down the road of going towards a digital dollar, which I think that planted the seed for our Fed currently to look at a CBDC, which I'll get to that here in just a second, Blue Diesel. So that planted the seed of change and said, okay, we need to upgrade the system. And I think that they have made some steps to get there. You see now we have the Fed Now program, which is another way to send larger amounts of money almost instantaneously through the Fed Wire program. Well, I think it's still a little too, how do I say it? It's a good old boy kind of closed off group. This should be open and transparent to everybody. So Ripple was the lead dog, and of course, then they got under a bunch of scrutiny from the SEC for being an unregistered security. And when you look at the mechanics of Ripple and how it functions, it's arguable that it is a security. We could talk about all the Howey test rules that are qualifying it as a security, but the SEC says it's a security. Ripple says it's not. When you look at the tokenomics, meaning how many are out there, where are they, how are they distributed, the tokenomics for Ripple look terrible. There was 100 billion of them created, and presently the Ripple Labs, which controls Ripple, has 45 billion of them that they're holding. That's 45% of all the Ripple in the world is still in their possession. That's a big red flag. So they haven't had a chance to grow. They are partnered with several big banks around the world, but they haven't infiltrated the major U.S. banking system. I think that's because of resistance from the central banks here in the U.S. Now, is Ripple the answer? In my opinion, no, it is not. And here's why. There's a lot of competition in this space to be a global payment network. So you think Ripple, well, I could name off a dozen right now that could easily do the same thing, if not faster and better than Ripple. So let me look at two sides here, for example. Let's say we look at something like Ripple and we look at something like Cardano. Now, for most people, they'll look at that and go, well, these are the same things, right? They're both cryptocurrency, they're both digital assets. They function completely differently. So, for example, we could take Ripple, and Ripple is controlled by just a handful of people, right? There is only a handful of people that can control changes that happen to the Ripple system. I believe it's 4 or 6 entities. That's way too centralized. It gives all the power to one. Cardano is one of the more decentralized cryptocurrencies, where it's spread out amongst thousands and thousands of different people. So right away, a dispersed network is going to be a safer, more transparent network. Number 2 is the amount of transactions that these cryptocurrencies can handle. For example, Ripple can handle about 1,500 transactions per second when it's absolutely maxed out. Cardano is only 1,000. So you give the nod in this one to Ripple because it can handle more transactions. However, right now Cardano is working on scaling solutions that should get it to 100,000 transactions here in a couple of years. That gives it a huge competitive advantage. So by those two right there, I wouldn't pick Ripple, I'd pick Cardano. Now the good news is it's not a 2-horse race. There's plenty more. So the big change that you have to think about when you're looking at these kind of payment networks for digital money and digitizing money around the world is, what is the standard protocol that's going to be put in place by our regulatory bodies here in not only the United States, but maybe even globally? And that is what's called ISO. It's such a tough one to pronounce or to say because of the way it's written. It's ISO 20022, right? ISO 2022 represents a global financial messaging standard which indicates a commitment to regulatory compliance, transparency, and interoperability. This can lead to higher trust and potential for mainstream adoption for investors. So what's changed now in this upgrading of digitization of money is ISO 20022 is saying, okay, hold on a sec. You all want to be part of this global payment network. Here are the rules. And if you want to play in this arena, you have to be 20022 compliant. So you can imagine there are many different cryptocurrency projects that are rushing out there to be ISO 2022 compliant. 20022. You can't say 2022. You can say 20,022. I guess that's it. 20,022 compliant. So what I would recommend, if you're like Caesar and wants to know, hey, is Ripple the one? If Ripple's saying they want to replace Swift, then I would want to look at all the other cryptocurrency projects that are compliant for ISO 20022. And that looks like this. So here are the main ones. You've got Ripple, right? That's the one that everyone thinks is going to be the lead dog. And because of the regulatory pressure, because of what's going on with the SEC, it's kind of like a ball and chain around their ankles. It's preventing them from growing quickly. So while Ripple is stuck in the mud in this litigation with the SEC and therefore kind of, locked in place, a lot of other competitors have jumped up. And here are some of them. You've got Cardano, you've got Quant, Algorand, Stellar, Hedera Hashgraph, IOTA, XDC Network. There are others out there as well, but these are some of the major players right now that have all gone through the compliance process and are now certified compliant in ISO 20022. Why is that important? Because if you're looking for something that could be that payment network for the future, this is your starting list for cryptocurrencies, right? That means that and it's supposed to be implemented in 2025, right? This new 20022 compliant thing will be implemented as of 2025. They're going to remove the old Swift network and upgrade it with this new compliance measure, which is going to be digital. So we're going from analog to digital, and that will happen next year sometime. Cool. I'm excited for that. But now you got to ask yourself, well, which ones do I go for? right? If I have this little list here, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I got 8 different things in here, which ones do I go for, right? You can't just say, well, Ripple's going to be the one without doing any research on it. So one of the things that's important for me in looking at this kind of global payment network would be 2 things. Number one is, how much does it cost to utilize those networks? And the second one would be, how many transactions can they handle? How scalable can this become? Now, to be fair, I don't believe that these payment rails for financial institutions, this SWIFT protocol, is going to be handling transactions like you would see on a Visa or MasterCard, which for the United States does about 2,500, or sorry, for the globe does 2,400 transactions per second. That's kind of its running rate for Visa, and that's a globally used credit card. I don't believe you're going to get that degree of transactions on this. So it doesn't need to have 50 or 100,000 transactions per second, but the more the merrier. So I wrote some of them down. I don't have all the data here, but I just wanted to share a few of them with you so you could kind of see and go, okay, I get it. Ripple, up at the top there, doing 1,500 transactions per second. Of course, that's the benchmark that everyone's striving for. And Ripple, it's like 0.0002 cents per transaction. So right away, you're saving yourself a huge amount of money for your consumers if they're using the Ripple versus Swift, which is going to be several dollars, if not hundreds of dollars, depending on the transaction. Cardano, right? Right now, only 1,000 transactions per second. I have them all backwards here. Sorry, they're coming in at different times. Cardano right now, that's its max. Its maximum, which it's never reached, it's just theoretical, is 1,000 transactions per second, and they're working on sharding techniques that will get this up to 100,000 transactions per second in a couple of years. I don't know Quant personally. Algorand looks fantastic, great technology. Silvio Marcali and MIT, this is kind of, they're behind this one. 6,000 transactions per second, right? Not bad. And Algorand is a tenth of a penny per transaction. Still cheaper than anything else out there. Stellar Lumens. I would actually pick Stellar Lumens over Ripple. They do 1,000 transactions per second, which they could get to more than that, I'm sure. Stellar is, like 1/10,000th of a penny per transaction. Hedera Hashgraph, 10,000 transactions per second, and they are, a 10,000th of a penny transaction. IOTA, another big one. They're talking 1,000 transactions per second, and they're no fees. So you can see right away there's different qualifications here to each of these projects. So it's hard for me to say, well, Ripple's great or Cardano's great. They each have their own strengths and weaknesses. Now, when we look at this list here, what I want people to understand is the differences that go on behind the back end of these cryptocurrencies. So if you look at IOTA or Hedera, Stellar, Algorand, Quant, they all have different characteristics. So let's just take Ripple and Cardano again as an example. Ripple is predominantly a payment network. Now, they recently just changed where you can now start to do smart contracts on it, but they just don't have the community. They don't have the people building the smart contracts on it. So it's still kind of a one-dimensional payment network. Whereas if we look at Cardano, Cardano can be used as a payment network, but it can also have anything built on top of it. So when I think of utility and optimizing my investment, right, I'm getting much more functionality out of Cardano than I am Ripple. Right, Ripple, I can build a decentralized exchange on it. I could build a stablecoin on it. I could do so much more on Cardano versus Ripple. So if I have to line those two things up, it's a no-brainer for me. Ripple doesn't even come into the conversation. I own Ripple, to be fair and disclosure. I have a pretty good amount of Ripple. I don't think it's really going to be going anywhere. I don't think it's going to be, even though it does have relationships with banks right now, I don't see it entrenching itself as the leader in the payment network, just because it's stuck in the mud until this whole thing with the SEC is resolved, and that could take more and more time. I would much rather have Cardano or Algorand or... Yeah, I would go Cardano or Algorand as kind of being my two on this list that I would look for as that payment rail network. But again, they're Swiss Army knives. They have multiple utility. So hopefully I didn't lose too many people on that discussion, because it's kind of a weird, process that we're going through right now to upgrade. I mean, our credit card systems were developed in the 70s as well, and it's just an old archaic system. We'll probably see that upgraded here with a digital backbone using ISO 20022 compliance for payment processing on credit cards. And hopefully we can get rid of people like Visa and MasterCard and our banks, which are charging merchants 3% per transaction. That's ridiculous. We should be nowhere near 3% per transaction, right? Should be a fraction of a percent. Is Solana part of the payment network? No. So Solana is not ISO 20022 compliant to my knowledge yet. Now, if I can assure you, neither is Ethereum, right? Ethereum's the biggest one, and they're not compliant either. If I was the team or the community at Solana, I would put in a proposal right now to make sure we were compliant with ISO 20022 as soon as possible. Because by not being compliant and not being on this list over here, you're kind of missing out on the big party. The big party is money globally. Right, getting money all over the world. So I'd hope that they do, Robert, at some point in the future, but for right now, they are not ISO 20022 compliant. That is why you can't buy a car with a credit card. Well, you can buy part of a car. When I bought, they said you can buy up to $5,000 with your credit card, which of course I would recommend if you ever buy a new car, ask them how much you can put on your credit card and max out that amount because for me, it was 5,000 airline miles. So I just added 5,000 miles to my thing. Of course, I pay my credit card off before the balance comes due. And, it's just free points for me. But yeah, it's a strange topic. I know for some, this is kind of over your head. Others are kind of, okay, I get it. But this will be a much bigger discussion next year as we get the rollout of this ISO 20022. And I know that for myself, there are several cryptocurrencies that I hold that are compliant, and I'm hoping that those actually will start to gain in popularity and utilization by financial systems. So if I'm Wells Fargo and Bank of America and I now have my choice of payment networks to send money around the world, it doesn't matter to me whether I use Ripple, Cardano, Quant, Algorand, Stellar. It's going to be about cost and efficiency. So I'm going to go, which one's the fastest, cheapest? I'm using that one. And I think we'll see the leaders start to take shape there. Ripple also is talking about issuing a stablecoin, which to me defeats the whole value proposition of Ripple, of XRP. So I think they're kind of going down the wrong path, but who knows? Let's see, what questions did I have here? Let's see. Why can't USDC replace all this junk? It is much easier and fast. You're right, but you're wrong. It's not fast. So when you look at USDC, so Blue Diesel is correct. It's a stable coin. So why wouldn't I be able to if I wanted to send, let's say, $50,000 worth of value from myself to my cousin in Germany, why couldn't I just use USDC and send that? Here's why. Number one, it's not fast. So USDC is not a blockchain. Everything you see here is its own blockchain. It's its own network. So Ripple's its own blockchain. Cardano, Quant, Algorand, these are all their own networks. So they're making up the rules for it. USDC is not a blockchain. USDC is a token that is written on top of Ethereum. Ethereum is not ISO 20022 compliant. So you wouldn't be able to use that anyway. Now, let's assume that Ethereum does go through all the hoops and becomes compliant. They got the stamp of approval, right? You still wouldn't want to use USDC because it's on Ethereum, which has significantly higher fees at present moment and is ridiculously slow. So if you have the global community using this network, it's slow. Look at the number of where it says TPS on the right-hand side of your screen. Ripple, 1,500 is its maximum. Can anybody in here tell me right now, what's the maximum number of transactions per second for Ethereum? At its best, how many TPS, how many transactions per second can Ethereum do? Type in the chat. I'm curious what you guys think. That's kind of why I think these ones have made it, is because they've breached a certain threshold of transactions. They all seem to be doing over 1,000. So Ethereum, I'll wait about 4 seconds because you're going to get an ad right about now. So I'll wait for this ad to pass, and hopefully that ad was a good one. I don't know if I think that ad might have made me like 5 cents. So thank you for the nickel contributions. Ethereum does between 12 and 15 transactions per second. 1, 2, and 1, 5, right? It's not big. So you hear about Ethereum being bogged down all the time and how it's being real slow. Yeah, it's because it's the most popular network in all digital assets and cryptocurrency, but it can only do 12 to 15 transactions per second. you can imagine if everyone's trying to use Ethereum, it gets really bogged down. And when it gets bogged down, the fees go up exponentially. So, I mean, there were times in my class where I had a $20,000 transaction fee to move $100 worth of value. Of course, I did not make that transaction. That's just stupid. But people just don't know that Ethereum is that bad. I mean, in the crypto world, most do. But I think the average person has no idea that Ethereum can barely do any transactions. You know, it's very, very, very slow. So 12 to 15 transactions per second for Ethereum. Now, they are working on 2 upgrades. One is called ZK Rollups, which is, well, I won't complicate it, but one's called ZK Rollups, which should get about a 100x, which means we could now have Ethereum at, let's say, 12 to 1,500 transactions per second. And the second systemic upgrade will be called sharding, SHARDING. That should do another 100x. So in theory, if these 2 upgrades go successful over the next couple of years, Ethereum could be at 150,000 transactions per second. If that were to happen, well, then Ethereum is the lead dog. But they got to work on their fees, right? The cost to use Ethereum is prohibitive. Good question. And I think Solana has the speed. Solana can do upwards of 60,000 transactions per second. It's very cheap. It's still somewhat centralized, but I don't believe that they've met the requirements to be ISO 20022. Okay? If you got questions, send them on in. This is good stuff. I know I'm kind of rambling, but this is something that may not be mainstream media talked about, but this is happening as we speak, kind of under the radar in the financial world, and eventually it will impact all of us at the bottom line. Let's see. They report on CNBC that Trump campaign is now accepting donations in crypto. It started. I'm telling you, everybody will accept payments in crypto. You know, if you're a church, you know, you don't have dollars on you, it's okay. Here's our Venmo, or send us crypto. I think every politician will accept cryptocurrency. The only red flag would be if you're a politician, you want to know where that cryptocurrency came from, because that could come back and bite you in the butt, right? If you accepted it from some drug dealer or some terrorist or something like that, you know, Al-Qaeda. Oh, Al-Qaeda gave me $5 million worth of Bitcoin. That could be bad news. So you got to be careful with that. But yeah, why wouldn't you accept crypto payments? I would. You guys want to pay me in crypto? I'll give you some address. You just tell me what you want to send me. You can send me any cryptocurrency you want. I will give you an address to send it to. Please, feel free. Let's see. Tom says, earlier I was looking for Fred Sanford quotes about Ripple and got, oh man, he's great. It's divine intervention there, Tom. It's a mixture of Ripple. Oh, I remember that. Sanford and Son, what a great show. Cripple. Maybe Cripple is what will happen to their network, I think. Let's see. What do we got here? Any other questions, comments? No. Yeah, fees are definitely what's getting Ethereum at this moment in time. But you know, we're geeking out here in technology with crypto, so I apologize for those of you who are not digital asset fans. But they recently went through an upgrade on the Ethereum network. It's called Denkin. That upgrade reduced the fee structure for layer 2. So your Arbitrums, your Optimisms, your Polygons, the fees have dropped significantly there, and it's freed up the base layer. So now you're getting a lot more usage of the Ethereum underlying blockchain without all the transaction costs. And fees have dropped significantly. It's actually very, very low to what it was historically. Gio says, Merlin, if you have $150,000, would you invest in Bitcoin? Well, first off, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'd ask you a broader question, Chio. You need to look at all your net worth as like a pie chart, right? Where does your wealth stand? And for everybody out there, you should do this anyway. You know, open up an Excel spreadsheet, create a table, and say, you know, here's my net worth in my home, and here's my net worth in assets and investments, retirements, etc. And I would make a pie chart of that. And if you did that pie chart, Chio, and it showed that your net worth is $300,000, and you want to put $150,000 into Bitcoin, I would strongly discourage you from doing that. There are significant risks with crypto. You know, Bitcoin, while I think Bitcoin has great potential. I think it's going to continue to go up for a long time. I feel the adoption slowly starting. You guys have seen many times that I have been wrong, right? And I'm okay to admit when I'm wrong. It's fine. Wrong is just part of it. I hope I'm not wrong with regards to Bitcoin, but I could be. It could fall out of favor and no one uses it anymore and price drops to zero. It could the hashing encryption algorithm could be hacked, right? Remember, this is an NSA protocol called SHA-256. That could be hacked. with quantum computing at some point down the road. So there is risk to it. So I would never put, a large portion of my portfolio into crypto. My net worth is spread around amongst a bunch of different stuff. The 150,000 high yield savings account. Well, the challenge there is if you keep in the high yield savings account, you're going to make yourself 5% per year. That's great. If you put into crypto, you run the risk of losing, 20, 30, 50, 70%. I mean, it could fall. If you saw what happened in 2021, it fell 70%. Are you ready for that? Remember, we're going into the end of a 4-year cycle. It's over almost the last part of the 4-year cycle, which means we got 1 year left to rally. And then after that, we're going to have a big sell-off. And as I mentioned, I think from November of 2025 till November of 2026 is going to be nothing but down for crypto. I don't know why. It's just what's happened 3 times in the past. I think it's going to repeat itself again, so I'll play that. The overall is 50% of my wealth. Okay, so in a typical investment portfolio, you would look at putting something like 5 to 10% in commodities like gold. So let's just say you did 10% of your net worth in gold. I would split that in half and do 5% Bitcoin, 5% gold. And I would make the Bitcoin a quote-unquote digital gold for my portfolio. That would not put too much exposure on it and allow you to keep growing your other money at your local high-yield savings accounts at 5%. But again, it's really up to you. I mean, I have friends whose 100% of their net worth is in crypto. To me, that's crazy. But they may walk away from this being the smart one in the room. We just don't know where it's going to go at this point. If you're nervous and scared about losing that money, then keep it in the high yield savings account. You look at what's gone on with Bitcoin. Let's just bring up some price charts here. Right, so here, if you look back here, this all looks great. We all would love for this to happen to our accounts, right? To have Bitcoin. Oh, I bought it here at 18 and now it's at 72. Love it, yes. Well, are you ready for this? Where it was up at $69,000 and fell all the way to 17, 18? To me, that's the risk. That's the risk that you have to take here. I know my risk aversion and my belief in this one is that it's going to continue to move up. I thought we would go slowly down and sideways for the next couple of months before the big rally. It feels like that big rally may come sooner rather than later. As long as people use Bitcoin, it will keep going up. That's the funny thing. People are not using Bitcoin at all. Bitcoin is a buy and hold investment at this point. Now, what Robert said there, it says as long as people use Bitcoin, it will keep going up. If people start to use this transactionally, then you're really going to see the boom. I think you'll really see a huge pop to the upside, but I don't believe we're there yet. I think businesses are still apprehensive about using Bitcoin as a payment network because of its volatility. As I mentioned, there are some projects out there like AMP and Strike that, let's say you guys are all customers, right? And let's assume you're from all over different parts of the world. And I run an online business. And you say, so Margaret comes in and she buys my widgets. And she says, oh, well, I want to buy some of your widgets, but I want to pay in US dollars. And let's say I'm a Canadian company. Okay, she pays me in US dollars. I could take it out in whatever I want. So she pays in dollars. I'll convert it into Bitcoin. Let's say I want to hold Bitcoin as a company. So Robert comes through and he says, oh, I want to pay with Ethereum. Okay, Robert, great. You buy my widgets, you pay with Ethereum. Before it even gets to me, I have it converted back to Bitcoin or whatever I choose. And that will be, I think, something very interesting for the future is these intermediaries, which will take a small slice for sure, but allow me to receive whatever I want from whomever I want. You want to pay with Dogecoin or Shiba Inu or Dog with Hat, which I think is a total scam? Great, pay me with that. I'm not going to accept the end result in that. I'll convert it to something that I want personally on the back end. Why only crypto investments? Is that for me or for you, Chio? Or is that for me or for Chio? I think Chio's probably saying, I'd like to have some exposure to crypto, and Bitcoin's probably going to be a good one at this point. Again, I do think that you're going to have a wild ride for a while. If we get to the point that, which I'm hoping we get to, which is it's now a much more globally used common payment network. Yes, the governments still want their fiat, but if we have Bitcoin being used around the world, let's say Argentina adopts it as a currency and other countries start to adopt it as a currency, and now we have this global payment system, and we have a layer on top of that allows for fast transactions, then, someone mentioned $1 million, or several people have mentioned $1 million per Bitcoin. I don't think that that's unrealistic at all. But you do have to have people using it. Right now, a lot of people are not using it. Why only crypto investments? I'm not sure I understand the question exactly, Margaret. I mean, I'm in all sorts of investments, but I think crypto is my only one that I'm holding long term. Granted, I say long term, but I'm probably going to sell it all next year just for that sell off. But when I look out the next decade, I that's the only market I'm exceptionally bullish on. You said that some of your friends only invest in crypto. Why? Okay, got it. Because you have this spectrum of people who are zero is they hate crypto. It's total rat poison scam, right? It's your Charlie Mungers. They wouldn't touch it if you gave it to them. They just, no, I'm not going to even look at it. It was gross. Then you have what are called maxis. That's the 10s. And those are the ones that believe that this is the only solution in the world to fix our debt, our credibility is to go with a digital asset. So those people don't want to buy a Microsoft or an Intel or Cisco or Nvidia or Goldman Sachs. They're like, I'm all in on Bitcoin, or I'm all in on some crypto asset that's going to change the world. And they're in that boat right now. I've got a couple that they have no stock market investments or 401ks. Everything is rolling into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Cool. But, as Robert says here, if you can stomach the volatility, Bitcoin and crypto is the way to go. It is a major roller coaster. To me, it's a pretty dangerous slope. But again, I rode the market down through this whole crash. I don't think most people here would be comfortable losing 70% of your portfolio, but I rode almost the entire way down here. I did sell some Ethereum. I sold all my Litecoin and all my Ethereum at the top, which was fantastic. But I bought it back in here. Let me look at the ETH chart here. I can tell you when. So it was actually back in here. It was 40 something. It was I sold out at 4,000. I ended up buying back in the 2,000 range. So I thought I did amazing. Well, we fell all the way much lower than that. We fell into the 1,000 mark. So, I held it because I believe in the future of it. And I made a mistake of not closing all my position, not even knowing the 4-year cycle. It just really... Shinobi says, if I could put my pension into crypto, I would. But Shinobi, you're pretty heavy crypto as well. Just seeing from your posts and your chats over the years, I would imagine that you're probably half your net worth is in crypto. And again, Shinobi is one of those guys who understands it. He's immersed in the world. He knows it very well. And he's making investments. He does like to dabble in shitcoins every now and again. I've seen your post, Ryan. I know you like that the crypto man Rand, who now are just like shitcoin shillers out there. But Brian knows the risks of it. And I think that Brian is definitely, if we get that spectrum of 0 to 10, I'd put Brian at the 8, 9 category. Like he's a true believer. He believes it's going to really change the world. And I'd probably in the 7, 8 category. I still believe it's great. I think that we need to get rid of a lot of the scams, a lot of the fraud, a lot of the bad people in the industry. And once that's done, then I think we'll get better acceptance. But you have people like Elizabeth Warren, who is just attacking crypto left and right. And part of me understands her angst because people are losing so much money to scammers, right? We have to approach every crypto project as it's a scam. No matter what it is, I first approach Bitcoin as it's a scam. And I researched it, I studied it, I understood it, and I got better and better and better and better and better at understanding. And like, okay, Bitcoin's actually legitimate. They're not trying to steal my money. Whereas you look at something like Gummy, okay, yeah, Shinobi, that was the post, something about Gummy, but these people that buy dog whiff hat. That's actually a crypto. It's called DOGWIFHAT. It's stupid. It's like a Paddington Bear icon, and people are gobbling this thing up and trying to make money off it. That's a scam. So is Pepe Coin. So is Shiba Inu. They're scams. So we have to get rid of that type of stuff here. Yeah, I think Gummy was an airdrop for Shinobi. Yep. Hey, and I got no problem with that. If someone's giving you something for free, take it, right? Make a couple bucks and dump that thing. Tom says Venmo, PayPal, and others are acting as intermediaries, and you can convert your USDC to Bitcoin. Yep, you can. Exactly. So with Venmo, for example, you can take your balances, or you can buy directly from Venmo. You can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash. I think are the 3 right now. There might be a 4th, but I think it's just those 3. And there's a 1.5% transaction fee on that. So keep in mind, there's a 1.5% transaction fee up front, And what they don't show you is the second fee, which is usually a wider spread. So, when you buy cryptocurrency on something like Venmo or Robinhood, they're not going to buy it for you at the bid price, which is cheaper, or try to buy it there. They're going to go pay retail prices. And depending on what order book they're using, that spread might be bigger than the normal market. I see that on Bitcoin ATMs all the time. It's something that people just don't see, but that's another implied fee. It's just that spread. Oh, yeah. Boon. Yep. It's funny. There's what was the one that just imploded? Oh, GameStop. Someone created a GameStop token. Guys, it doesn't do anything. There's no utility or purpose. It's just someone created it, created liquidity, and then pumped it, and all of a sudden got rich off it. We could easily do this, guys. 7 minutes of time it would take me to create some. So what you want to do is find an event that's going on that's just like a crazy event, right? Something that everybody's talking about. So make a Taylor Swift coin. I'm sure there already is one, but you can just call it the Swifty coin. And all the little Taylor Swift fans will gobble that thing up, and you put it out there, say, hey, Taylor Swift coin, buy it, I'll airdrop you 10 of them, and it just surges, it explodes. It's easy to do. Easy to do. Me, Fred, and Lamont. Tom, are you partaking over there? He's over there watching Sanford and Son, puffing on some legalized weed. Is that what's going on over there? Reality as technology grows over time, so crypto will keep on growing and fiat currencies fall. Correct, Robert. And that's kind of why people like myself and Shinobi and Crypto Man Ran are, I don't want to say, I'm not spearheading anything, but helping spread the word that crypto is not all bad. Out of the 2.2 million projects, again, I think 98% of them are garbage. They're scams, pump and dumps. But there's actually some really good projects which could change the world as we know it. I made this list over here of all these ISO 20022 compliant cryptos. Any one of these could be a payment network that Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America is using in the future to send money around the world. It's simple. So to me, there's a lot of opportunity there. And I think that by saying that Ripple is going to be the one, I think that's an error. I think that's a mistake on people's part to focus on Ripple as being the one and understand that there's several different here which could take over that place. And for me, if Ethereum gets ISO compliant and improves their scalability, then Ethereum will be the one that takes over. Let's see. But the idea is that some are community tokens. Some people are saying that they are a new form of NFTs. Sure. And some of them will give you rights to what you can do in different communities, right? But like Dog with Hat, it doesn't do anything. There is nothing that comes from Dog with Hat. And same thing with Pepe Coin. It even says on their website, this is a joke, doesn't do anything. And I say bravo to Pepe Coin for making that statement on their site. For Warren to say something is like that, how many people have lost everything trading stocks? Good point. But in the eyes of Elizabeth Warren and our regulators, well, hold on a second. The stock market has a police force around it, so that's much more rare. And I would agree with them. Getting rug pulled in the stock market is a lot less likely than getting rug pulled in crypto. Rug pulled in crypto is a daily occurrence. It's dangerous. XRP is a stablecoin. No, they're actually going to be launching a stablecoin. And I'm moving away from Ripple. I'm waiting for the next bull rally, which I think is going to happen over the next year. And in October, November, when I sell all my crypto because of the 4-year cycle, Ripple will be sold, and I probably will not be buying back into Ripple. I will let that one disappear from my portfolio. And I'm really, in 2026, when it comes to loading the boat back up, that's the perfect time for me to look at the spectrum of all the ecosystems of crypto and say, I want this one, because they've proven to me so far that they're the most resilient, they're the most scalable, the most reliable, and the most diverse projects out there, or targeted, depending on what I'm looking for. And then I'll rebuild that portfolio in 2026, and that'll be it for the rest. He is still hoping to ride Dogecoin back up. Let's see, what did Brian say? No mind-altering substance for me, just a good mood. Good. Well, we love when you're in a good mood, Tom. I try to tell my coworker to stop buying meme coins, but they think so. Yeah. Well, and Caesar, that's the reality of it is. They will. Like, if you play these meme coins, I think the real name is shit coins because that's what they are. Occasionally you're going to hit it. And you're going to get one that just knocks out of the park, and that offsets a lot of losses. But if we look at it from parallel, here's crypto, and you're trading these meme stocks or shit coins that are worth a fraction of a penny, and you hope it doubles in value, triples. That's the same thing as going and buying a penny stock on the stock exchange that's been going down, is beaten, and you just hope to get that little pop up and get rich. That type of strategy is not long-term effective. You might get lucky once or twice, but you're going to have 100 failures along the way, and ultimately your account goes to zero, right? We all understand that to be successful is about making good trades, knowing what you're buying, riding the trends, and moving with the markets. In this case, right now, everything's moving to the upside. All right, stay long and strong until it proves us wrong, which, in my opinion, will happen next year. It's airdrop season generally, though. I did pick up some on Cosmos, IBC. Yeah, I'm kind of, for some reason, I just have not had the time to focus on the airdrop side of things. I was early on in 2017, 18, 19, and 20. I was all about airdrops. I got a lot of airdrops given to me, and maybe I should focus more on those. But most of my stuff right now, Brian, is locked up. So I'm like staking my Cosmos, and maybe I can claim it there. Okay, so Caesar, that was for your question. Good to see you join us here. It was my thoughts on Ripple. We pretty much did the whole show today. I thought that was going to be maybe 20 or 30 minutes, and here we went a full hour on it. So my apologies for those of you who are more stock-centric and future-centric and market. This was a little bit different today, just kind of looking at a real topic. The financial system, the payment network, the backbone of money being sent around the world is done by SWIFT, and that system is changing. It's getting a complete overhaul. That will be implemented next year with this ISO 20022. And again, these are, at this point, the compliant cryptocurrencies. My guess by next year, you'll probably have a couple dozen more. No, not long VeChain. So SlyDog, there's a lot of different ways to do airdrops. I'll explain very briefly. An airdrop typically is where you hold a specific cryptocurrency. So let's say I'm a holder of Ethereum. I have ETH. What they'll do is it's guerrilla marketing. So let's say I want to launch Merlin token on Ethereum. I'm like, okay, I got to get people to use Merlin token. I need people to see Merlin token. So what I will make an announcement to the world is we're launching on Ethereum's blockchain, right? We're going to launch there. I'm going to create 1 billion tokens. And I'm going to airdrop 100 million tokens to people who hold Ethereum on a specific date, on a block. We'll say at this block 17259, when that block hits, we take a snapshot, and every Ethereum wallet that's there will get some of our tokens, and we'll just sprinkle it to everybody. It's a way to get people to market your token. So for example, you saw here that Brian was talking about Gummy. I'm sure that 99% of you have never even heard of Gummy. And you would never have heard of Gummy unless Brian posted it in a chat, because now Brian owns Gummy. And it's just guerrilla marketing that a lot of these firms do. Now, some of them will airdrop where it gives you some voting rights or it has some utility. But most of the time, it's a guerrilla warfare tactic, just a guerrilla marketing tactic to get you to recognize their product. So there are web pages that will give you calendars on what the upcoming airdrops are. Those are the holder airdrops. There's a lot of airdrops where you have to fill out all this information and give them their email, your address, and all these. They're using it as a data collection way. So you can go and fill out all these forms and maybe be given some. But most of the ones I participate in are what are called holder airdrops, which is where they actually take a snapshot of the blockchain and send you crypto that way. All right, after the break, we'll talk about our markets. Chumming. I like that. It's a good way to look at it. Yeah, you're trying to get people to talk about your crypto and put it in front of people. All right, let's run through our top 8 here today. Bitcoin, the worst performer, but I'll take it on the heels of what happened yesterday with this excitement about the ETF approval, which could come any moment now. The real vote is supposed to be for let's see. There's 2 happening this week. You have one on Thursday, one on Friday, where the SEC has a final say on approval for a spot Ethereum ETF. Now, if that happens, that could be a huge boost. When we saw Ethereum was up 22% yesterday, it was up a little bit more today. Crazy move up. Obviously, I love it because I've got a large position of Ethereum, so fantastic. That was just on the thought that this week we might get approval of the Ethereum spot ETF for 2 different firms. That's going to be ARK and for Van Eck. But there's like 9 others that are going to try to get their ETF, spot ETF done. I did see your topics, Ricardo. I'll let you know. I definitely have to get through a bunch of stuff here. I'm like overwhelmed with all the work I have to do at the moment. So my ability to build real complex shows is becoming tougher. But I did see all those, so thank you guys very much. Chios, I can do a show on ETFs. I can do that as well. That was your worst performer, Bitcoin down 1.33%. But anytime you got a move like this, I would happily take, at one point today, Bitcoin was up 8.77%. I'll take an 8.77% gain for a 1.3% pullback any day of the week. All in all, I think it's actually very positive for Bitcoin. You can see we did cross that red line on yesterday's show. Now came up in the overhead supply. So no surprise to see it come off here a little bit, but down just a little bit. Crude oil. Down 0.81% on the day, 78.66 where it closed at, and it feels like we're kind of back into this just sideways traversing, using this lower box here as your demand zone. I am out of my UCO, so I'm not concerned about it at this moment, but had some nice trades on UCO. Gold, finally a pullback. I want gold to crash. I want gold and silver to crash so I can load the boat again. Gold is down 0.52%, 24.25. Yeah, still looking absolutely fantastic. Your Russell, how much time do I got left? Oh yeah, we're not doing an hour show today, guys. Russell 2000 was down 0.13, so nothing to speak of there. The 10-year in fourth place, again, not much to speak of. It was a slightly down day for it, but I don't really see anything noteworthy from a tradability perspective. Dollar index, after we bounced off that demand zone in that yellow box there, slowly creeping back to the upside. I think we'll continue the upside just because of my long-term perspective of the U.S. dollar. NASDAQ set another all-day intraday high today and a closing high. Gotta love the NASDAQ. Just keeps on running. Now, this may all change tomorrow. We'll see what happens then. But closing at just a hair under 18,800. And finally, the S&P, which did not stop me out today. I'm so close to being stopped out of this, my S&P puts. Unfortunately, it was up 0.25% today, closing at 53.45. Now, I mentioned the earnings for tomorrow. Here is the big stuff. NVIDIA is the real big daddy. That will be your official popcorn trade of the day. I think a lot of people are going to be really excited about that one and what it might entail for the markets. I'm seeing both sides. I've seen prominent analysts saying this is the one that's going to crash the market, way overdone. I see other people saying it's not even getting started. The big boom's about to come to the upside. So who knows which way it's going to go. Just know that after market close tomorrow, it's going to be wild. It's going to be all over the place price-wise. And you have a lot of retail stocks reporting earnings tomorrow as well. You see you've got Target, TJ Maxx. I saw some others in here. Analog Devices, Guess, Williams-Sonoma. That's pretty much it. Then your economic calendar for mañana. Let me go to the calendar here and get you tomorrow's stuff. It's a pretty quiet week. You can see for the U.S., we just have FOMC meeting minutes, which, of course, is always popular just because it's a little more insight into what the Fed was thinking collectively as a group, not just Jerome Powell's summary. But that's pretty much it. You got existing home sales, crude oil inventories for the U.S., and that will pretty much round it out. Gold needs a tank, so I could go to Costco and get some gold bars. Yeah, Oliver, you don't want to do that. Those gold bars, it sounds cool, but the spread is huge, and you're paying more than the spot value of gold. So just go to a coin shop and buy gold from a coin shop. That's an easier way to do it. All right, everybody. Man, I did not think we'd go that length today. I want to thank you for your patience. I know it was a different topic today. Ripple, for Caesar, that was it. I gave a pretty in-depth analysis there. I'm not a huge fan of Ripple personally, but that is the digitization of money. And Ripple does play a role in it. The question is, how significant will that role be going forward? I think there's a lot of other players that are much more appealing because of their utility and functionality with regards to digitizing money going forward. We are moving towards a digital currency world within a decade. I wish I could do a little time capsule and maybe I'll paint it down somewhere, but within 10 years, I think we'll be not using physical money anymore. No, there will be no dollar bills and coins. It'll just be scan something and it's all going to be tracked. We'll see. Margaret says, Bitcoin new high coming soon. Could very well. I mean, we are really, really close to that all-time high. And it could happen the next day or two. Here's Bitcoin right now. Your all-time high on the futures market, if you go back to April 14th, shows a high price of $74,415. Today, we did breach 70,000. We hit 72,630 today. So yeah, could very easily happen. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for me. Bayway Wizard, Ethereum, Avalanche, Ripple, Render, Livepeer are my longs. I like all of those. I like all of those ones right there. Your wild card there, Bay, is Livepeer. If you can, you might want to put that over at Binance.us right now because you can get 37% interest per year on your Livepeer. We were talking about that within a class this morning. Kind of hard to figure out why they're paying that much, but right now on Binance.us for staking Livepeer, you're going to get 37%. Load it up. All right, everybody, that's going to be it for me. Thank you for the discussion. If you have comments, questions, things you want me to address on tomorrow's show, maybe we can continue this. If you really enjoyed the discussion, let me know. You can put your comments down below any YouTube video. I'm going to scroll through those tonight, build out some materials for tomorrow, or you can email me at tradermerlin@gmail.com. That said, have a fantastic remainder of your day, and we will reconvene for the NVIDIA earnings announcement tomorrow. Take care, everybody.